Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the massive alien ship grow larger on the main screen. The vessel was 3 times the size of his exploration ship and covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange. Symbols glowed red along its hull like angry scars. "Captain, they're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Jessica Barnes from her position at the communications console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls as she tried to clean up the signal. Marcus nodded and straightened his uniform. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and he wanted to make a good impression. The moment would be remembered in history books for centuries to come. "Put them through, Lieutenant." The main screen flickered and changed. A massive reptilian face appeared, filling the entire display. The creature had yellow eyes that burned with intelligence and cruelty. Sharp teeth lined its mouth and scales covered its head like natural armor. When it spoke, its voice was deep and threatening. "I am War Prime Thexvar of the Korthak Empire. You will surrender your vessel immediately. Your species will serve the Empire or be destroyed." The bridge crew tensed. Several officers reached for their sidearms, but Marcus held up his hand. He stepped forward and looked directly into those burning yellow eyes. "I am Captain Marcus Reed of the Terran Federation. We come in peace, seeking friendship and trade with other species. We mean no harm." Thexvar's mouth opened in what might have been laughter, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Peace? Friendship? These are words of the weak. The Korthak Empire has conquered 47 star systems. Your small ship will make a fine addition to our fleet." Marcus felt his crew watching him. They were deep in unexplored space, far from any help. The alien ship clearly outgunned them by a massive margin. Any reasonable captain would surrender and hope for mercy, but Marcus Reed had not become captain by being reasonable. "We respectfully decline your offer," Marcus said calmly. "We suggest you withdraw to avoid unnecessary conflict." The bridge fell silent. Even Lieutenant Barnes stopped typing and stared at her captain. The alien's yellow eyes narrowed with surprise and anger. "You dare refuse the Korthak Empire? Your ship has perhaps 20 weapons. Mine has over 300. Your armor is thin, metal. Mine is battle-tested ceramic composite. You cannot possibly win." Marcus smiled slightly. "War Prime Thexvar. My species has survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We've endured plagues that killed half our population. We've fought world wars that turned entire continents into battlefields. We've faced extinction more times than I can count." He paused and let his words sink in before continuing. "One alien ship doesn't concern us much." Thexvar's scales darkened with rage. "Then you will die with honor, human. Perhaps your species deserves that much respect." The transmission cut off. Marcus turned to his bridge crew, all of whom were staring at him with expressions ranging from admiration to terror. "All hands battle stations," Marcus announced over the ship's intercom. "This is not a drill. We are about to engage a hostile alien vessel. Remember your training and do your duty." Lieutenant Barnes moved to the tactical station. "Captain, their weapons are charging. Multiple missile locks detected. Take us into the debris field," Marcus ordered. "Full evasive maneuvers." The USS Defiance was exploring the remains of an ancient space battle. Thousands of years ago, 2 unknown civilizations had fought here, leaving behind a massive graveyard of twisted metal and broken ships. Most captains would avoid such areas, considering them navigation hazards. Marcus Reed saw them as opportunities. The human ship dove into the debris field just as the Korthak dreadnought opened fire. Massive energy beams cut through space where the Defiance had been moments before. The beams struck ancient wreckage instead, vaporizing metal that had drifted in space for millennia. "They're following us in," reported Ensign Tom Mitchell from the sensor station. "But they're having trouble with the debris. Their ship is too big to maneuver effectively." "Perfect," Marcus said. "Jessica, target their forward weapon arrays. Tom, plot a course through that cluster of derelict ships. Maximum thrusters." The Defiance weaved between chunks of ancient metal like a dancer moving through a crowded room. The massive Korthak ship tried to follow but had to move much more slowly to avoid collision. Every few seconds it fired its weapons, but the human ship was never where the aliens expected it to be. "Captain," called Dr. Robert Kim from his position at the science station, "I'm reading massive structural stress on their hull. That ship wasn't designed for this kind of maneuvering." Marcus nodded. "The Korthak probably fight in open space, ship to ship, following standard battle doctrines. They're not used to improvising." The Defiance suddenly reversed direction, using a large piece of wreckage as cover. As the alien ship rounded the debris, the human vessel opened fire with all weapons. The concentrated attack struck the Korthak ship's forward shields, causing them to flicker and weaken. "Direct hit," Jessica reported. "Their forward shields are down to 60%. But the alien ship was far from defeated. Thexvar had learned from the exchange and began using different tactics. Instead of trying to follow the human ship through the debris, the Korthak vessel positioned itself at the edge of the field and began systematically destroying large pieces of wreckage. "He's trying to clear the field," Tom observed. Without cover were sitting ducks. Marcus studied the tactical display. The alien ship was indeed powerful enough to clear the debris field given time. Once the Defiance lost its cover, the battle would be over quickly. "Jessica, do we have any torpedoes left?" 4 photon torpedoes, Captain. Load them all. Target those large support struts on the ancient battleship at coordinates 27 Mark IV. Jessica looked confused. "Sir, that's not an enemy target." "Trust me, Lieutenant." The 4 torpedoes streaked through space and struck the ancient derelict ship exactly where Marcus had indicated. The massive vessel, already weakened by millennia in space, began to break apart. But instead of simply falling to pieces, the destruction created a chain reaction. The battleship's collapse sent debris flying in all directions. Some pieces struck other wrecks, causing them to break apart as well. Within minutes, the relatively clear area where the Korthak ship had positioned itself became filled with fast-moving wreckage. The alien vessel, caught off guard by the sudden debris storm, took several hits to its hull. Alarms could be heard over the communication channel as Thexvar shouted orders to his crew. Marcus smiled. Sometimes the best weapon is the environment itself. The Defiance used the chaos to position itself behind the alien ship. When the debris settled, the human vessel had a clear shot at the Korthak ship's engine section. "This is Captain Reed," Marcus broadcast on all frequencies. "War Prime Thexvar, your engines are damaged and your shields are failing. We offer you the chance to withdraw peacefully. No more blood needs to be spilled today." There was a long silence. When Thexvar finally responded, his voice carried a note of respect that hadn't been there before. "You fight unlike any species we have encountered, Captain Reed. The Korthak Empire will remember this day. We withdraw, but this matter is not finished." The massive alien ship slowly turned and disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the USS Defiance alone among the ancient wrecks. Marcus looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had just survived humanity's first interstellar conflict, and they had won not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. "Set course for home," Marcus ordered. "We have a lot to report to Earth Command." As the Defiance jumped to hyperspace, none of them realized that news of their victory was already spreading across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, an apex predator species had been forced to retreat by newcomers. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of. Colonel David Hayes stood at the observation deck of the colony ship New Hope, watching the strange alien vessels circle his ship like wolves around prey. The ships were sleek and dark, built for speed and stealth rather than raw power like the Korthak vessel that had fought Captain Reed 3 months earlier. "Colonel, we're receiving a transmission," reported Communications Officer Lisa Chen from the bridge. "It's different from the Korthak contact. These aliens seem more formal." David nodded and walked to the nearest comm panel. Beside him, Dr. Emily Carter adjusted her tablet, ready to record humanity's second first contact with an alien species. The main screen flickered to life, showing a wolf-like creature with intelligent amber eyes and silver fur streaked with black. The alien wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor decorated with the bones of various creatures. When it spoke, its voice carried the authority of a natural predator. "I am Fang Leader Ralvin of the Vorthak hunting clans. We have heard tales of your species, humans. The Korthak claim you fight with cunning rather than strength. This intrigues us. David stepped forward. I am Colonel David Hayes. We are peaceful, colonists seeking a new world to call home. We have no quarrel with your people. Rolvin's ears twitched in what might have been amusement. Peace is for prey animals, Colonel Hayes. The Vorthak are predators. We have ruled this sector for 1,000 years through superior hunting skills. No species has ever challenged our dominance. We're not challenging anyone, Dr. Carter interjected. We simply want to find an uninhabited world where we can build a new colony. The alien's amber eyes shifted to her. Dr. Carter, your species interests us greatly. The Korthak are brutes who rely on overwhelming force, but you defeated them through strategy and adaptation. These are traits we respect. Rolvin leaned forward, his predatory smile showing sharp canine teeth. Therefore, we offer you the hunt challenge. Your people against mine in ground combat. If you survive, we will grant you safe passage through our territory. If you fail, you will serve as our prey. David felt his blood run cold. The colony ship carried over 2,000 civilians, including families with children. They were scientists, engineers, and farmers, not soldiers. What are the terms of this challenge? David asked carefully. Simple. We choose a location. Equal numbers of hunters from both sides. Last group standing wins. We hunt as nature intended, with skill and instinct rather than massive weapons. Dr. Yu. Carter touched David's arm. Colonel, we can't risk civilian lives on some alien hunting game. But Sergeant Tom Mitchell, who had been monitoring the conversation from the security station, stepped forward. Sir, we might not have a choice. Their ships have us surrounded. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. David studied the wolf-like alien's face on the screen. There was intelligence there, and something that might have been honor. The Vorthak weren't random killers like the Korthak seemed to be. They followed rules even if those rules seemed harsh by human standards. How many hunters? David asked. 20 from each side. The hunt takes place on Kepler's moon, a contested world in this system. Natural terrain, basic equipment only. The hunt begins at dawn and ends at sunset. Victory goes to the side with survivors. David looked around at his crew. They were colony ship personnel, not military, but they had trained for planetary defense scenarios, and Sergeant Mitchell had brought along a full security detail of former soldiers. We accept your challenge, Fang Leader Rolvin. The alien's amber eyes glowed with anticipation. Excellent. Prepare your hunters. We begin in 12 hours. 6 hours later, David stood in the colony ship's cargo bay addressing 20 volunteers. They were a mix of security personnel, former military colonists, and even a few civilian volunteers who couldn't bear the thought of sitting safely while others risked their lives. Sergeant Mitchell had taken charge of weapons and equipment. Remember, they said basic equipment only. That means personal weapons, basic armor, and field gear. No heavy weapons, no vehicles, no orbital support. Dr. Carter, who had insisted on joining the hunting party despite David's protests, studied readings from the moon's surface. The terrain is mostly forest and rocky hills, lots of cover but also lots of places for ambushes. The Vorthak are probably natural trackers. Then we don't play their game, said Private Jake Thompson, a young colonist who had served in Earth's military. Predators expect prey to run and hide. What if we don't behave like prey? David smiled grimly. What do you have in mind? We hunt. Them back. The moon's surface was beautiful in a harsh way. Ancient trees stretched toward a pale sky, and rocky outcroppings provided natural fortifications. David's team landed in a clearing near the center of the designated hunting ground. The Vorthak landed on the opposite side of the zone. Through his binoculars, David could see wolf-like figures moving through the trees with fluid grace. They were clearly in their element here. They're spreading out, observed Dr. Carter, who was monitoring alien movement with portable sensors. Classic pack hunting formation. They'll try to surround us and drive us toward a kill zone. Sergeant Mitchell checked his rifle one more time. Standard predator tactics. Problem is we're not standard prey. Instead of running or hiding, David's team did something the Vorthak had never encountered before. They began constructing defensive, positions using fallen logs and natural stone formations. Within 2 hours, they had created a series of interconnected strongpoints that controlled the high ground in their area. The Vorthak, expecting to track fleeing humans through the forest, found themselves facing an organized defensive network. Their first attack came at midday, with 6 aliens attempting to rush the human positions. The attack failed completely. The humans had overlapping fields of fire and used coordinated tactics that turned the Vorthak's speed against them. 2 aliens were wounded and captured, while the others retreated. Rolvin's voice came over the comm system they had been given for the hunt. Interesting tactics, humans, but you cannot hide behind walls forever. We will find a way through. We're not hiding, David replied calmly. We're hunting. That afternoon, the humans began their own offensive. Instead of waiting for the Vorthak to attack, they sent out small teams to track and engage the alien hunters. But they didn't hunt like predators seeking prey. They hunted like soldiers clearing an objective. Private Thompson's team found 3 Vorthak moving through a ravine. Instead of ambushing them, the humans surrounded the area and called for surrender. When the aliens refused, the humans used non-lethal force to capture them. By evening, the situation had completely reversed. The Vorthak, who had begun the hunt, as confident predators, found themselves being systematically outmaneuvered by humans who fought as a coordinated unit, rather than individual hunters. The final confrontation came as the sun was setting. Rolvin himself, along with his remaining 5 hunters, approached the human defensive position under a white flag. We yield, the Fang leader announced, his amber eyes showing an emotion David had not expected to see there. Respect. You fought. With honor, David replied. Your wounded will be treated and released. Rolvin's ears flicked in surprise. You would show mercy to those who hunted you? Dr. Carter stepped forward. Among humans, strength isn't just about winning. It's about knowing when not to use all your power. The wolf-like alien stared at her for a long moment. The Vorthak have hunted for 1,000 years. We believed that only predators could be strong. But you have shown us something new. You hunt not for the kill, but for the victory. You capture rather than destroy. You show mercy to enemies. Rolvin bowed, his head slightly. The Vorthak hunting clans will remember this day. You have our respect, humans, and our friendship, should you ever have need of it. As the 2 groups prepared to return to their ships, Rolvin approached David privately. Colonel Hayes, a warning. Word of your victories is spreading across the galaxy. There are powers far older and more dangerous than the Korthak or the Vorthak. They will not be as honorable as we have been. David nodded grimly. Then we'll face them the same way we faced you. Together, as one people. The Fang leader's amber eyes gleamed with something that might have been admiration. Yes, I believe you will. As the New Hope continued toward its destination, David reflected on what they had learned. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology. It was their ability to work together, to show mercy even to enemies, and to find solutions that others couldn't imagine. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to make tomorrow better for everyone, even their enemies. Ambassador Rachel Torres stood in the grand chamber of the Eternal Council, feeling very small despite her diplomatic training. The chamber was enormous, built to accommodate beings that had existed for millions of years. Crystal formations hung from the ceiling like frozen lightning, and the walls seemed to shift color with each passing moment. Around her sat the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Each member of the council represented civilizations that had risen and fallen before Earth's sun had even formed. They had watched countless young species emerge, fight brief wars, and disappear into cosmic dust. The being called Archon Veltaran floated above the central dais, its form shifting between solid matter and pure energy. When it spoke, its voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere at once. So these are the humans we have heard so much about. Tell us, Ambassador Torres, why should the Eternal Council concern itself with another young species that will likely destroy itself within a few centuries? Rachel had prepared for this moment her entire career. Beside her, General William Cross stood at attention, while Dr. Robert Kim checked his datapad one final time. They carried with them the complete recorded history of humanity, ready to present their case to beings older than their planet. "Honored Archon," Rachel began, her voice steady despite her nervousness, "humanity requests recognition as a peaceful species and protection under galactic law. We offer friendship, trade, and cooperation to all who seek it." A sound like crystalline laughter filled the chamber. Known as wisdom, a being composed entirely of living crystal, pulsed with amused light. Peace? Friendship? Young human? We have heard these words from 10,000 species over the eons. They all ended the same way. Another council member, a creature that looked like flowing liquid metal, spoke in harmonious tones. "Your species has existed for mere moments in cosmic time. You have barely left your birth world. What could you possibly offer beings who have transcended physical existence?" Rachel straightened her shoulders. "We offer something the galaxy has apparently never seen before. We offer the ability to survive." The chamber fell silent. Even the constantly shifting patterns on the walls seemed to pause. Archon Veltaran's energy form flickered with interest. "Explain." Dr. Kim stepped forward, activating a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. "Honored council members, please observe the historical record of humanity." The display showed Earth during the last ice age. Primitive humans huddled around fires while massive glaciers covered most of the planet. 70,000 years ago, a supervolcano nearly wiped out our species. Our population dropped to perhaps 10,000 individuals. The image shifted to show medieval Europe during the Black Death. 700 years ago, plague killed 1/3 of our population. Cities became graveyards. Next came images of the World Wars. Less than a century ago, we fought global conflicts that should have destroyed our civilization. Nuclear weapons capable of ending all life on Earth were created and used. The final images showed recent events: climate change, pandemics, near-nuclear war. Each time our species faced extinction, we did not just survive. We became stronger. We learned. We adapted. We united. Known as wisdom's crystal form pulsed more slowly. Interesting, but survival instinct exists in many species. This is not unique. You're right, Rachel said, but what we did after surviving is unique. After the Ice Age, we developed agriculture and built cities. After the plagues, we created medicine and public health systems. After the World Wars, we formed international organizations to prevent future conflicts. She paused and looked directly at Archon Veltaran's shifting form. And after we nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons, we reached for the stars instead. General Cross stepped forward. "Honored Council, we have reviewed your records of other species. When faced with extinction, most either die out or become more aggressive and territorial. Humans do the opposite. Trauma makes us work together, the liquid metal being flowed into a different shape. You claim your species learns from suffering. But what of your current conflicts? Your people still wage wars." "Yes," Rachel admitted. "We're not perfect, but look at the scale of our conflicts, compared to our capability. We have weapons that could destroy our world in hours, yet our wars are smaller now than they were centuries ago. We have chosen restraint." Dr. Kim activated another display. "This shows human response to natural disasters over the past 50 years. When earthquakes, floods, or storms strike any nation, humans from around the world send aid regardless of politics or past conflicts. Former enemies work together to save lives." Archon Veltaran descended closer to the human delegation. "You present an interesting case, but millions of species have shown cooperation during crises. This alone is not remarkable." Rachel smiled. "But we don't just cooperate with our own species. In our first contact with the Korthak Empire, Captain Reed could have destroyed their damaged ship after his victory. Instead, he offered them safe retreat. When the Vorthak challenged our colonists to a hunt that could have ended in slaughter, Colonel Hayes chose to capture rather than kill." She gestured to the holographic display. "We have been contacted by 2 apex predator species so far. Both attempted to destroy or subjugate us. Both left our encounters with respect for humanity rather than hatred." The crystal being pulsed thoughtfully. The Korthak and Vorthak are indeed formidable. That you survived their tests suggests unusual capability. More than survival, General Cross said. We changed them. War Prime Thexvar contacted us after their retreat. The Korthak Empire has begun questioning their conquest-based society. Fang leader Ralvin has already altered Vorthak hunting traditions to include mercy for defeated opponents. The chamber was quiet for several long minutes. The ancient beings communicated among themselves using methods beyond human understanding. Energy patterns flowed between them like visible thoughts. Finally, Archon Veltaran spoke. In 4 million years of observation, the Eternal Council has never encountered a species like yours. Most young races are either too aggressive and destroy themselves or too peaceful and are conquered by others. The being paused, its form brightening. You appear to have found a third path, strong enough to defeat apex predators, yet wise enough to show them mercy. Capable of great violence, yet choosing cooperation instead. Known as wisdom's crystal form chimed like distant bells. The question is whether this unusual trait will persist as your species grows in power. History suggests that success breeds arrogance. Rachel nodded. That's a fair concern. We can't promise we'll never make mistakes, but we can promise to learn from them just as we always have. The liquid metal being flowed upward. What would you do if a species refused your offers of peace? If they attacked your worlds and killed your people without provocation? We would defend ourselves, General Cross replied immediately. But even then, we would seek to end the conflict rather than destroy the enemy completely. We believe every species has the potential for growth. Dr. Kim added, Our history shows that our former worst enemies often become our strongest allies. Nations that fought devastating wars now trade and cooperate regularly. We hope the same can happen on a galactic scale. Archon Veltaran rose to the ceiling of the chamber. The Eternal Council will deliberate on your request. You will have our answer within 1 standard day. As the human delegation was escorted to guest quarters, Rachel wondered if they had made their case effectively. The ancient beings had seemed interested, but their thoughts were impossible to read. 24 hours later, they were called back to the chamber. This time, all the council members were present in their full forms, creating a display of power that made the chamber feel like the inside of a star. Archon Veltaran's voice carried new weight when it spoke. The Eternal Council has reached a decision. In 4 million years, we have granted full recognition to only 17 species. Most proved unworthy of our faith in them. Rachel held her breath. However, your species shows promise beyond any we have encountered. You possess a rare combination of strength and wisdom, courage and compassion. Most remarkably, you seem to grow stronger through adversity rather than being destroyed by it. The ancient being descended until it was at eye level with the humans. The Eternal Council grants humanity full recognition and protection under galactic law. More than that, we designate Earth as a protected world and humanity as a guardian species. Rachel felt her knees go weak with relief. Guardian species, known as wisdom, chimed softly, a rare designation. Guardian species are tasked with protecting younger civilizations and maintaining peace in their sectors. It is a heavy responsibility. We understand, General Cross said solemnly. We won't let you down. As they prepared to leave, Archon Veltaran offered a final warning. Be aware that not all powers in the galaxy will welcome your rise. There are species that profit from conflict and chaos. They will see you as a threat to their way of life. Rachel nodded. We'll face whatever comes. Together. The ancient being's form flickered with something that might have been approval. Yes. That may be exactly what the galaxy needs. As their ship departed the council station, Rachel looked back at the massive structure where beings older than worlds made decisions that shaped the fate of entire civilizations. Humanity had just been given a seat at the most important table in the galaxy. Now they had to prove they deserved it. Captain Lisa Morgan stared at the massive structure floating in space before her fleet. The trial station was ancient beyond measure, built by the Drakkar supremacy to test species that claimed to be worthy of galactic respect. The station looked like a metallic flower with 7 petals, each one containing a different challenge. "Captain," called Commander Jake Thompson from his position at the communications console. "We're receiving a transmission from the Drakkar Warmaster." Lisa nodded. Around her, the bridge crew of the UFS Determination worked quietly at their stations. Behind them, through the viewports, she could see the rest of the human task force, 12 ships carrying the best soldiers, scientists, and diplomats humanity could provide. The main screen flickered to life, showing a being that looked like it had been carved from living stone. The Drakkar Warmaster stood over 8 feet tall, with armor that seemed to be part of its natural skin. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding mountains. "I am Warmaster Gorthnak of the Drakkar Supremacy. You humans claim to be a guardian species worthy of the Eternal Council's recognition. We dispute this claim." Lisa stepped forward. "I am Captain Lisa Morgan, representing humanity in these trials. We accept your challenge and will prove our worthiness through deed rather than words." The stone-like being's eyes glowed red. "Understand this, human. In 10,000 years, no species has completed all 7 trials. Most fail at the first. Those who persist usually die by the third. Are you prepared to sacrifice your lives for this foolish quest?" Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez, monitoring the conversation from the engineering station, whispered, "Cheerful fellow." Lisa ignored the comment and addressed the Warmaster directly. "We understand the risks. Humanity has never backed down from a challenge when the stakes mattered." "Then let the trials begin," Gorthnak declared. "The first trial is combat superiority. You will face our champion warriors in space battle. Many species believe themselves mighty until they meet Drakkar in actual combat." The first petal of the station opened like a blooming flower. From within emerged 3 Drakkar warships, each one bristling with weapons and covered in battle scars. These were clearly veteran vessels that had fought countless engagements. "Choose your champions," the Warmaster commanded. 3 ships against 3 ships. No reinforcements. Victory goes to the survivors. Lisa looked at her fleet commanders. Each ship captain was experienced and capable, but the Drakkar vessels looked formidable. Instead of choosing her most powerful ships, Lisa made an unexpected decision. "We choose the UFS Swift, UFS Clever, and UFS Unity," she announced. "Commander," Thompson raised an eyebrow. Those were 3 of their smallest vessels, fast scouts rather than heavy warships. The Drakkar ships outgunned them by enormous margins. The battle began immediately. The Drakkar ships, confident in their superior firepower, charged straight at the human vessels expecting a quick victory. Instead, the human ships scattered in 3 different directions. What followed was not a traditional space battle but a demonstration of human tactical thinking. The Swift used its speed to stay just out of weapon range while drawing one Drakkar ship away from its companions. The Clever disappeared behind the trial station, using the massive structure as cover. The Unity appeared to flee toward a nearby asteroid field. Within minutes, the Drakkar ships found themselves fighting 3 separate battles instead of one coordinated engagement. The human vessels used the environment, superior maneuverability, and coordinated timing to defeat opponents that should have crushed them easily. Warmaster Gorthnak watched the battle in silence, his stone-like features unreadable. The second trial was technological adaptation. The humans were presented with alien technology they had never seen before, and given 1 hour to not only understand it, but improve upon it. Most species failed this trial because they tried to force the alien tech to work like their own systems. The human team, led by Dr. Sarah Kim and Engineer Rodriguez, took a different approach. Instead of fighting the alien technology's natural design, they worked with it. They studied how the systems wanted to function and then found ways to enhance those natural behaviors. By the end of the hour, they had not only mastered the alien systems but had created hybrid technologies that combined human and alien innovations. The result was more powerful than either system alone. The third trial was diplomatic resolution. The humans were presented with a conflict between 2 artificial species that had been fighting for centuries. Previous test takers had tried to impose solutions or pick sides. Ambassador Torres, now part of the trial team, spent time listening to both sides. She discovered that the conflict had started over resources, but had continued long after the original cause became irrelevant. Instead of trying to solve the resource problem, she helped both sides remember why they had started working together originally. The fourth trial was sacrifice for others. This test had killed more participants than any other. Species were required to risk their own people to save strangers they had never met and probably never would meet again. When the scenario began, Captain Morgan found herself facing a choice between saving her own crew or rescuing the crew of an unknown alien vessel. Most species chose to save their own people, which resulted in automatic failure. Lisa didn't hesitate. All ships, move. To assist the alien vessel, maximum speed. Captain, Commander Thompson protested, we'll be exposing ourselves to attack. We could lose everyone. Then we lose everyone, Lisa replied calmly. But we don't leave people to die when we can help them. The human fleet saved the alien crew at significant risk to themselves. Several human ships took heavy damage, but no one died. More importantly, they had passed a test that eliminated most applicants. The fifth trial was leadership under impossible odds. The human team found themselves commanding a mixed force of different species in a battle they could not win through conventional means. Previous participants had either tried to fight impossible battles or had surrendered without trying. Captain Morgan took command of the mixed fleet and did something unexpected. Instead of trying to win the battle, she focused on saving as many lives as possible while achieving the mission objectives. She used human ships to cover the retreat of damaged alien vessels, coordinated medical evacuations, and turned a devastating defeat into a strategic withdrawal that preserved most of the force. The sixth trial was mercy to the merciless. This was perhaps the most psychologically difficult test. Participants were given the opportunity to destroy enemies who had shown them no mercy. Most species either showed weakness by refusing to act or showed cruelty by taking revenge. When presented with captured Drakkar warriors who had tried to kill human crew members, Lisa made a third choice. She treated them as prisoners of war, providing medical care and fair treatment while making it clear that further aggression would not be tolerated. "Why do you show kindness to those who would gladly kill you?" asked the captured Drakkar leader. "Because someone has to break the cycle," Lisa replied. "If we respond to cruelty with cruelty, the violence never ends." The seventh and final trial was the test of ultimate purpose. Participants were asked why their species deserved to survive when so many others had failed. It was a philosophical question that had no right answer, only honest ones. Lisa stood before the assembled war masters of the Drakkar supremacy. Around her, the human team waited quietly. They had survived all 7 trials, something no species had ever done before. "War Master Gorthnak," Lisa began, "you ask why humanity deserves to survive. The truth is, we don't deserve anything. Survival isn't about deserving. It's about choosing." She gestured to her crew. "We choose to help rather than harm. We choose to build rather than destroy. We choose to learn rather than remain ignorant. We choose to show mercy rather than cruelty." The War Master leaned forward. "But what gives you the right to make those choices for others?" "Nothing," Lisa admitted. "We can only make choices for ourselves. But we hope that by making good choices, we inspire others to do the same." She paused and looked around at the ancient station. Every species that came before us faced the same challenges we faced. Some chose conquest, some chose isolation, some chose destruction. We choose cooperation. War Master Gorthnak stood slowly. "In 10,000 years, no species has completed the 7 trials. You have not only completed them, you have redefined what it means to pass them." The stone-like being's red eyes dimmed to a warmer glow. "The Drakkar supremacy recognizes humanity as a guardian species. More than that, we pledge our support to your cause." As the human fleet prepared to depart, Gorthnak approached Captain Morgan privately. "A warning, human. Your success here will not go unnoticed. There are powers in the galaxy that profit from conflict and chaos. They will see your influence as a threat. Lisa nodded grimly. We'll be ready. I believe you will be, the War Master replied. The Drakkar will stand, with you when that time comes. As the UFS Determination jumped to hyperspace, Lisa reflected on what they had accomplished. Humanity had passed an impossible test not through superior strength or technology, but through their unique approach to problems. They had proven that sometimes the best way to win was to change the rules of the game entirely. But as War Master Gorthnak had warned, their success would not go unopposed. Somewhere in the galaxy, ancient enemies were already planning humanity's downfall. The real test was yet to come. Admiral Susan Clark stood in the command center of the space station Terra Prime, watching the tactical display with growing concern. Red markers showed enemy fleet positions throughout human space. For the first time since making contact with alien civilizations, humanity faced a coordinated attack from multiple species. Admiral, reported General Michael Torres from the intelligence station, we've confirmed the Alliance composition. The Korthak Empire, Vorthak hunting clans, Shadow Collective, and Blood Fleet have united under a single command structure. Intelligence Chief Brian Adams looked up from his datapad with grim news. Total enemy strength is estimated at over 2,000 vessels. Our fleet has maybe 300 ships ready for combat. Susan studied the display carefully. Each red marker represented ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. The Korthak Empire's massive dreadnoughts, the Vorthak pack hunters, the Shadow Collective's stealth vessels, and the Blood Fleet's raiding ships. Together, they formed the most powerful military force the galaxy had seen in millennia. How did this happen? Susan asked. 6 months ago, the Korthak and Vorthak were showing us respect. Brian pulled up communication intercepts. Our success with the Eternal Council and the Drakkar trials changed everything. These species built their civilizations on the idea that strength means domination. Our approach threatens their entire way of life. On the main screen, a transmission came in from the Alliance flagship. The image showed all 4 Alliance leaders standing together. War Prime Thexvar of the Korthak, Fang Leader Ralvin of the Vorthak, Shadow Master Vextar of the Collective, and Blood Captain Kargan of the fleet. Thexvar stepped forward, his reptilian features hard with determination. Admiral Clark of the humans, we have come to end your species' contamination of galactic civilization. Susan was surprised to see Ralvin among the Alliance leaders. The wolf-like alien had shown respect for humanity after their hunt trial. Fang Leader Ralvin, I thought, we had reached an understanding. The Vorthak's amber eyes were filled with conflict. You have, Admiral. But understanding and acceptance are different things. Your way threatens everything we are. Shadow Master Vextar, a being of shifting darkness, spoke in a voice like whispers. Your species spreads weakness disguised as strength, mercy to enemies, cooperation with inferiors, protection of the weak. These ideas poison the natural order. Blood Captain Kargan, scarred from countless battles, snarled his agreement. The galaxy belonged to the strong before you arrived. We will restore that natural balance. Susan looked at each of the Alliance leaders. These were apex predators who had ruled through fear and violence for centuries. Humanity's different approach had shaken their confidence in their own methods. What do you want? Susan asked, though she already knew the answer. Your species will return to your home system and never leave it again, Thexvar declared. Your ideas of mercy and cooperation will die with your expansion into space. The galaxy will return to its proper order. And if we refuse, then we will destroy every human world, every human ship, and every human life. Your species will serve as an example to any others who might follow your path. The transmission ended. Susan looked around the command center at her staff. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to exploring space and building peaceful relationships with alien civilizations. Now they faced a war that could end humanity's future among the stars. Options? Susan asked. General Torres pulled up fleet dispositions. We can't match them in direct combat. Our ships are designed for exploration and defense, not aggressive warfare. Their vessels are purpose-built weapons of war. Brian Adams had been studying intelligence reports. There might be another way. Our actions have affected more than just the apex predator species. We've been receiving communication from dozens of worlds under Alliance control. Susan raised an eyebrow. What kind of communications? Requests for help. The Alliance species control hundreds of enslaved worlds. Those populations have heard about humanity's approach to galactic relations. They want freedom. An idea began to form in Susan's mind. How many worlds are we talking about? Conservative estimate? Over 200 inhabited systems under Alliance control. Many of those species were conquered centuries ago and have been serving as slaves or tributary states. Susan smiled for the first time since the crisis began. General Torres, instead of preparing to fight the Alliance fleet, what if we liberate their enslaved worlds? The command center fell silent as everyone processed the implications. Admiral, General Torres said slowly, that would mean attacking hundreds of systems simultaneously while their main fleets are here threatening our worlds. Exactly. We can't beat them in a straight fight, but we can remove their source of power. No empire can survive if it loses control of its territories. The liberation campaign began within hours. Instead of gathering their fleet to defend human space, the humans scattered across the galaxy to free enslaved worlds. It was the largest military operation humanity had ever undertaken, and it went against every conventional military strategy. Captain Jennifer Hayes commanded one of the liberation fleets. Her target was the Korthak mining world of Zerion, where a peaceful species called the Bendari had been enslaved for 3 centuries. The Korthak garrison at Zerion expected to face a few human ships in hit-and-run attacks. Instead, Captain Hayes broadcast surrender demands on all frequencies while her fleet surrounded the planet. This is Captain Hayes of the Terran Liberation Fleet. The Bendari people are under our protection. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly according to galactic law. The Korthak commander's response was predictable. You dare threaten a world of the Empire? We have 10,000 troops on this planet. And we have 20 ships in orbit, Hayes replied calmly. But more importantly, we have 50,000 Bendari who are tired of being slaves. That was the key to the human strategy. On every world they liberated, the humans didn't just defeat the occupying forces. They armed and organized the local populations to defend their own freedom. Within days, the liberation campaign created a cascade effect across Alliance space. Enslaved worlds that had been under control for centuries suddenly rose in rebellion. The few human ships provided leadership, training, and equipment, but the real fighting was done by people fighting for their own homes. The Alliance leaders, watching their empires crumble from within, faced an impossible choice. They could continue their advance on human space while losing everything behind them, or they could retreat to deal with the rebellions. War Prime. Thexfar made the decision to split their forces. Half the fleet returns to secure our territories. The rest continues the assault on human worlds. But Fang leader Ralvin disagreed. This is exactly what the humans want. They're forcing us to fight the war on their terms instead of ours. Shadow Master. Vextar's form rippled with anger. It doesn't matter. We crush the rebellions quickly and return to finish the humans. The Alliance fleet split up, sending ships throughout their territories to restore order. But they discovered something they hadn't expected. The newly liberated worlds weren't fighting alone. Human advisors and equipment had arrived on dozens of worlds. More importantly, species that had been enemies for centuries were now working together under human coordination. The rebellion wasn't just individual worlds fighting for freedom. It was a coordinated alliance of the oppressed. The climactic battle came at Nexus Station, a massive space fortress that controlled the hyperspace routes between Alliance territories. If the humans could capture it, they would cut off Alliance reinforcements and supply lines. Admiral Clark personally commanded the assault fleet. With her were ships from 30 different species, all fighting together for the first time in galactic history. The space around Nexus Station filled with vessels of every size and design, united under human tactical coordination. The Alliance had concentrated their remaining forces at Nexus Station. This would be the decisive battle that determined the fate of both the Alliance and humanity's future in space. All ships, this is Admiral Clark, Susan broadcast to the combined fleet. Today we fight not for conquest, but for freedom. Not for domination, but for the right of every species to choose their own destiny. The battle raged for hours. Alliance warships, designed for overwhelming offense, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight according to established rules. Human ships protected damaged alien vessels. Former enemies coordinated their attacks. Ships designed for different types of combat worked together seamlessly. Most importantly, the combined fleet fought with a motivation the Alliance couldn't match. They weren't fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting for the freedom to live without fear. When the battle ended, Nexus Station was in human hands. The Alliance fleet was scattered, and their control over their territories was broken beyond repair. In the aftermath, War Prime Thexvar requested a meeting under a flag of truce. The Alliance, leaders who had seemed so confident days earlier, now faced the collapse of everything they had built. How? Thexvar asked simply. How did you defeat us when we outnumbered you 10-1? Susan looked at the defeated Alliance leaders with something. That might have been pity. You were fighting to maintain your power over others. We were fighting to give others the power to free themselves. Fang leader Ralvin spoke up. We underestimated you again, just as we did during our first encounters. No, Susan replied. You underestimated everyone. You thought the species you conquered were weak because they accepted your rule. You never considered that they might be waiting for someone to show them a different way. The Predator Alliance had been broken not by superior firepower, but by the radical idea that strength should be used to protect rather than dominate. The galaxy would never be the same. President Sarah Mitchell stood at the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall, looking out at a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just 2 years earlier. Representatives from over 300 species filled the massive chamber, all gathered for the first meeting of the Galactic Confederation. Sambrian, the front rows sat the former apex predators who had once terrorized the galaxy. War Prime Thexvar of the Korthak Empire wore ceremonial robes instead of battle armor. Fang leader Ralvin of the Vorthak represented his people as an ambassador rather than a hunter. Even Shadow Master Vextar had taken solid form for this historic occasion. Behind them sat delegates from hundreds of worlds that had been liberated during the Alliance War. Species that had been enslaved for centuries now held equal votes in galactic governance. The Bendari mining engineers sat next to the Qualic artists. The Mordak philosophers shared translation devices with the Zeltron traders. Friends and colleagues, President Mitchell began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. 6 months ago, we fought a war that could have destroyed both human civilization and the freedom of countless worlds. Today, we gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals working toward a common future. Archon Veltaran of the Eternal Council floated in a place of honor near the podium. The ancient being had watched the transformation of galactic civilization with fascination. In 4 million years of observation, I have never witnessed such a rapid and fundamental change in the nature of interstellar relations. Fleet Admiral Daniel Parker, who commanded the new Confederation Defense Force, sat with the military advisors. His fleet was perhaps the strangest military organization in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species served together under unified command, not to conquer new territories but to protect member worlds from pirates and raiders. The first major issue on the agenda was the integration of former Alliance territories into the new Confederation structure. Chief Diplomat Helen Garcia had spent months negotiating the complex agreements needed to transform centuries-old slave relationships into voluntary partnerships. War Prime Thexvar rose to address the assembly. The Korthak Empire formally requests membership in the Galactic Confederation. We acknowledge our past crimes and accept the judgment of this body regarding reparations and reforms. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversation. Many species had suffered under Korthak rule. The decision to accept their membership was not automatic. Dr. Emily Carter, now serving as Director of Interspecies Relations, stood to respond. The Confederation's Founding principles state that any species willing to embrace peaceful cooperation and respect for other civilizations may join our alliance. However, membership requires demonstrable commitment to these principles. She activated a holographic display showing Korthak territories. Over the past 6 months, the Korthak Empire has voluntarily freed all enslaved populations, established democratic governments on member worlds, and converted military production to civilian infrastructure. These actions demonstrate genuine commitment to change. The vote to accept Korthak membership passed by a significant margin. Similar votes followed for the Vorthak hunting clans and even the Shadow Collective. The most emotional moment came when Blood Captain Kargan of the former Blood Fleet spoke. The scarred warrior had undergone perhaps the greatest transformation of any alliance leader. My people built our civilization on raiding and conquest. We believed that taking from others made us strong. The humans showed us that building with others makes us stronger. He gestured to a group of delegates from the Kethmar system. 6 months ago, my fleet raided Kethmar colonies for slaves and resources. Today, Kethmar engineers are helping us convert our warships into exploration vessels. They chose to help the people who had hurt them. The Kethmar delegate stood. We chose forgiveness because the humans taught us that yesterday's enemy can become tomorrow's friend. The Blood Fleet's knowledge of deep space navigation is helping us explore new worlds. Together we are stronger than we ever were apart. President Mitchell smiled at the exchange. This was exactly what humanity had hoped to achieve. Former enemies working together for mutual benefit. The Assembly spent days establishing the new Confederation's structure. Unlike the old system where apex predators ruled through fear, the Confederation operated on principles of consent and mutual aid. Member species contributed according to their abilities and received support according to their needs. The Korthak's industrial capacity would help rebuild worlds damaged by centuries of warfare. The Vorthak's exploration skills would be used to find new habitable worlds for growing populations. The Shadow Collective's information networks would help coordinate trade and diplomacy across vast distances. Perhaps most importantly, humanity's role in the new order was not as rulers, but as facilitators. Human diplomats helped resolve disputes between member species. Human military forces provided protection but did not occupy territory. Human technology was shared freely with anyone who could benefit from it. Captain Jennifer Hayes, great-granddaughter of the colonial commander who had faced the Vorthak hunting challenge, now commanded the UFS Horizon. Her ship was crewed by representatives from 20 different species, all working together as equals. The bridge looked like a miniature version of the Galactic Assembly, with beings of various shapes and sizes operating stations designed for their specific abilities. Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Zara Okafor from the science station, we're receiving a distress signal from the Outer Rim. Unknown vessel requesting assistance. Jennifer nodded. This was exactly the kind of situation the new Confederation had been created to handle. Set course to intercept. Signal the fleet that we're responding to an emergency. As the Horizon and its escort vessels jumped to hyperspace, Jennifer reflected on how much had changed. 2 years ago, a distress signal from the Outer Rim would have been ignored by most species. Pirates and raiders controlled those areas and merchant vessels traveled there at their own risk. Now the Confederation maintained patrol fleets throughout known space. Any ship in distress could expect help, regardless of their species or political affiliation. It was a simple concept, but it had revolutionized interstellar travel. The distress call came from a small exploration vessel belonging to the Yithak, a species that had only recently made contact with galactic civilization. Their ship had suffered engine failure while surveying a new star system. This is Captain Hayes of the Galactic Confederation vessel Horizon. We're here to assist you. The Yithak captain appeared on screen, his insect-like features showing obvious relief. Captain Hayes, we are grateful for your response. Our engines are damaged and we cannot reach inhabited space. No problem, Jennifer replied. We'll have you back in friendly territory within a day. As her crew worked to repair the damaged vessel, Jennifer noticed something that would have been impossible under the old galactic order. Her engineering team included a Korthak specialist working alongside a Bendari technician. The Bendaris People had been enslaved by the Korthak for centuries, yet here they were solving problems together. The rescue operation became a teaching moment for the Yithak, who were amazed by the cooperation between former enemies. Their captain asked Jennifer how such cooperation was possible. "It started with a simple idea," Jennifer explained. "Strength isn't about defeating others, it's about helping others become strong." Back at the Galactic Assembly, President Mitchell was addressing the final session of the founding conference. "Today we establish not just a new political structure, but a new way of thinking about our place in the universe." She gestured to the mixed crowd of delegates. For too long, galactic civilization was built on the idea that some species were naturally superior to others. The strong ruled, the weak served, and everyone accepted this as the natural order. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "But humans learned something different in our long history. We learned that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. We learned that former enemies can become trusted friends. Most importantly, we learned that true strength comes from lifting others up, not keeping them down." War Prime Thexvar rose from his seat. "President Mitchell speaks truth. The Korthak Empire spent centuries building power through conquest. But in 6 months of cooperation with former enemies, we have achieved more progress than in the previous 100 years of domination." Fang leader Ralvin added his voice. "The Vorthak prided ourselves on being perfect hunters, but the humans taught us that the greatest hunt is not for prey, but for knowledge and friendship." The conference concluded with the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Charter, a document that established the basic principles of the new confederation. Every delegate signed, from the ancient Archon Velteran to the newest species just making first contact. As the delegates prepared to return to their home worlds, many reflected on the magnitude of what they had accomplished. In less than 2 years, humanity had transformed from an unknown species to the catalyst for the greatest change in galactic civilization's history. But perhaps the most significant moment came in a private conversation between President Mitchell and Archon Velteran. "Honored Archon," Sarah asked, "do you think this new system will last? History is full of confederations and alliances that collapsed when tested." The ancient being's energy form flickered thoughtfully. "Most alliances fail because they are based on mutual fear or temporary advantage. Your confederation is different, because it's based on mutual respect and shared values." Velteran paused before continuing. "More importantly, you have taught the galaxy something new. You have shown that strength and compassion are not opposites but partners. That wisdom comes not from dominating others, but from understanding them." 6 months later, the Galactic Confederation had grown to include over 400 member species. Trade flourished between former enemies. Scientific cooperation led to breakthroughs that benefited everyone. Most importantly, the constant warfare that had plagued the galaxy for millennia had largely ended. The new exploration ship UFS Unity, the largest vessel ever built through interspecies cooperation, prepared for its maiden voyage beyond the edge of known space. Captain Jennifer Hayes stood on its bridge, looking out at the stars with a crew that represented the best of dozens of civilizations. "All stations report ready for departure," announced Commander Marcus Chen, the ship's first officer and descendant of one of the original colonial families. "Take us out," Jennifer ordered. "Let's see what's waiting for us in the unknown." As the Unity jumped to hyperspace, carrying the hopes and dreams of hundreds of worlds, Jennifer thought about her great-grandfather's encounter with the Vorthak hunters so many years ago. He had faced alien predators with nothing but human determination and ingenuity. Now his great-granddaughter was leading those same former predators and countless other species into the unknown, united by the simple but revolutionary idea that everyone deserved freedom, respect, and the chance to reach for the stars. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or technology, but their unshakable belief that tomorrow could be better than today for everyone. And in a universe full of wonders yet to be discovered, that belief was the most powerful force of all.